Welcome back to Tech in the Real World. I'm Mark Darwin, and today we're going to be looking at the new iPad mini A17 that Apple have just released this week. The 6th generation iPad mini, which has been out some time, that this replaces, has a bit of a cult following as a good digital notebook and a perfect size iPad to carry around everywhere you go. And a lot of people were hoping that it would be replaced quite soon, and Apple took the time to replace it, so it had an older chip in it, it was starting to show its age, and we were hoping for a big upgrade. So unfortunately, we didn't get the big upgrade that we were hoping for. We ended up with a new chip in it, so an A17 Pro, which was taken out of the iPhone 15 Pro series. So it's a powerful chip. I picked one up last week and I've been having a play around with it, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a perfect size for note taking. It now supports Apple Pencil Pro as well, which is another upgrade on there. And I've been using the Apple Pencil with the iPad mini, and I think it's great size to sit in bed with, or sit at the table with, or take out and about with you and take notes with. I think one of the main reasons the Apple haven't done a huge upgrade over this is because the target market for the mini is the entry-level iPad into the series, and they wanted to upgrade it so it could support Apple Intelligence when that finally comes out this year. So Apple Intelligence simply would not have run on the A14 chips, and now the A17 Pro chip will run this nicely. And they've also added in smart HDR for the photographs, so you get a better HDR processing on the photos. The rear cameras and the front cameras are exactly the same, and we haven't had the upgrade which we hoped for, to have the camera on the landscape side. It's still portrait here, like the other iPads in the lineup. We have got now a faster USB-C transfer, which is really helpful for content creation because it can download and edit video much quicker. This thing can now also run Final Cut Pro app, and I can easily use the Final Cut camera, dual camera setup or four camera setup, and it runs perfectly fine. So plenty of power to run that, which is amazing on an iPad this size. The lineup starts at 128 gigabytes now, instead of 64 gigabytes, which is a big help because it doubles the storage, and it's the same starting cost of $499, and 256 gigabytes, which is this version, goes up to $599. And then the range tops out at the 512 gigabyte version at $799, and then another £100 on top if you want cellular. So these can get pretty expensive if you put cellular on it. With all the accessories, you can be looking at just under £1,000 for an iPad mini with the Apple Pencil Pro. And I think that is a lot of money for a small tablet, but I'll get into it later and talk to you about why I think actually this is probably the best 8-inch tablet on the market at the moment, and we'll go over some of the key features. So it now comes in space grey and blue, purple and starlight finish, which is the same as a lot of the other Apple lineup, like the MacBook Air and the Apple AirPods Max, etc. So Apple like adding colours into these lineups. I went for the blue version, and the blue portfolio case, which I think looks great. If you look, it fits perfectly onto the iPad, and it looks really nice, complements it perfectly. So the blue colour is excellent, but whichever colour you fancy will be the one to go for. So I didn't actually have a chance to have a look at the iPad mini 6th generation. I never had one because I was currently using Android at the time, and it wasn't something I've ever thought about buying. But I'd seen quite a few people online say that the iPad mini was very useful for them with note-taking and content creation. Once I've started this channel, I actually picked up the iPad mini 7th generation when it came out, and I've loved it. So I've only had it a week, but I've been loved using it. I think the screen is a perfect size, a nice 8.3-inch screen. It's fully Retina display, the same as the last generation, but it only is a 60 hertz panel, unfortunately. So a lot of people were hoping that we get a promotion, but with this being a bottom of the range tablet, I would have been very surprised if Apple had chosen to put promotion inside this iPad mini, and they didn't. We have the A17 chip now, which has far more cores and a bigger neural engine for Apple Intelligence. We've got 8 gigabytes of RAM, which Apple don't publish, but that means that's what we need for Apple Intelligence when it finally arrives. Can't test any of that because it's not available yet. So it's purely skeptical about what it's going to be like in December. But as soon as it comes out, I will test it out and let you know my thoughts on it. Front cameras and the rear cameras both are now smart HDR4 and basically the same specs as before apart from that. So 4K 60 on the back, and I've tried that, it's pretty good. It's non-HDR, so it doesn't look as good as the iPhone recording, and it's a smaller lens, so you're not going to get as much light in, so it can look a bit grainy inside, but it's fine for outside. And this actually, the size of iPad and this tablet means you can actually carry it around to take photos if you wanted to, whereas the larger ones like the iPad Air 13-inch and M4 Pro ones, which I've got one here actually, is way too big for that, so don't even bother. So yeah, apart from that, exactly the same specs as before. We've got, I think the speakers on it sound fine. And blue, purple, and starlight finish, which is the same. I went for the 256GB version, which I think is the sensible one to go for if you're going to be doing video editing at all. You might even consider 512. Don't go too high on the storage option and add cellular, because I think that cost-wise it gets too expensive, and you may as well then start looking at the Air with the 11-inch screen. But depending on what you want to do, if you want to for ultimate portability, this is the best for portability and for note taking. I think it gives you the ultimate flexibility, and you can get it with cellular, as I mentioned before. I've always been a bit of a non-cellular iPad person because I don't really get the need to have cellular on the iPad and on your phone at the same time. So I've always said, if you've got cellular, if you've got a decent data plan on your mobile phone and you can tether it, then just tether that to your iPad. It makes no sense to me to have two separate data plans unless you've got this on a contract with another provider, or on a deal or something like that, and that's fine. But to me, operating on two separate data plans, you pay £100 more for the iPad and you're paying for the separate data plan when you can just tether. So to me, it makes no sense. But please comment below if you see a reason to use it. I'd like to open a discussion about that because it's something I've never found use for. And when I've talked to other people about it, it's something that they've never been able to tell me they needed either. So anyone who's had use for that, please comment down below in the section and get going with the discussion, because I'd really like to talk about that and find someone who's actually using the cellular versions, because I don't know anyone who does. I've had them in the past and I've never used the cellular versions of them. So what I want to talk about now is the Apple Pencil Pro. So I know this came out with the iPad Pro M4s earlier this year, and it's the first time I've had to play around with it because I've not had an iPad for a while, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great for note taking and drawing. I love how you can squeeze on it and bring up the display, bring up the hover function on it. You can change the nib of the pen on the note taking. I think it's the best feeling Apple Pencil I've used. The previous generation, which I did have, I never used it. I found the screen not very good for note taking. I have put a paper sort of screen protector on this. I don't want to mention any brands online at the moment because I don't have any affiliation with them at the moment, but it is a very good screen protector and I like how it feels writing on the screen. So I would suggest that you have a look. There's a few brands that sell them, these screen protectors that turn iPad screens into paper. So do have a look online and try and find one, because it does make the screen look a little bit different, but it really helps with writing on the note-taking side of things. So I would recommend that you do that. I'll show you how this works. So you can hover over it, you can change the nib, you can use it as an eraser, and then it clips to the top of the screen just like that. Perfectly there, and it charges wirelessly, so there's no USB-C charging on it or anything. So I think that is a big upgrade. Now, as there isn't many changes between the iPad mini 6 and the iPad mini 7, I wanted to keep this review relatively short. So I want to wrap things up now and just want to kind of go over who I think should buy this iPad mini 7th generation. So the first question I want to ask is, should you upgrade from the 6th generation to the 7th generation? So I've never actually, as I'm saying honestly, I've never played around with the 6th generation, but looking at the specifications online and having held the 7th generation, I don't think, unless you need more power, unless you feel like the chip is lacking in that 6th generation, you want to do a bit of gaming on it, or you want to do a bit of video editing on it, or anything like that requires more power, there's any reason to upgrade. Or maybe battery's dying on it or whatever. For any reason like that, because I think it's about 3 or 4 years old now, then yeah, it's a good upgrade. The new chip just feels pretty snappy in use, and I've done, as I say, I've used Final Cut Pro on it, some of the more pro apps, and it does run them absolutely fine. The timeline was nice and smooth. The Pencil Pro is really good at editing and chopping in clips, so that's one thing that you can do on the move with it. And you've got more memory options now, so you can carry more video around on it. and the fast USB-C port. So I think for content creators, it is a possibility now carrying this around and using it as a very portable mini laptop. There isn't any actual case, official keyboard case for it because I think it's too small. There are some third-party ones. I've connected a Bluetooth keyboard to it at some points, and it's quite useful for note taking. But the screen is is smaller than the standard iPad. I've also used Sidecar on the Mac with it, so it works quite well with that. If you want a little extra screen just to dump something on. But I think mainly as a digital note taker, something you can carry around with, watch videos on, in your bag. It's just so small, portable, and easy to use, and it complements the iPhone perfectly. Even if you've got the iPhone Pro Max and a nearly 7-inch display, I think having the extra 8-inch screen does give you a bit more. So you can, and you've also got iPad iOS, which does have some issues. I agree, but it is better than the phone operating system for certain things. We're doing more work on it, so you can get work on the move. So I think I would highly recommend this iPad Mini 7th generation. I think it's one of the best tablets on the market in this size. I currently have the Google Pixel tablet, and it's a bigger screen and it runs Android, and I just don't think it offers the same in terms of integration with the Google ecosystem and also with the portability. I think it's more of a media entertainment device and it has a dock, and it's just a completely different tablet. And I know there are other Android tablets out there from Samsung, and I've had to play around with them. I just think the iPad Mini is the best one out of all of them. It just handles everything really well. And hopefully Apple did get rid of the jelly scroll issues when you were scrolling down on the text. You could see it would wobble a bit, but I've not noticed it at all on this one. I've heard rumors that you can make it do it in certain circumstances, so I will have a play around with it and show you on the video if it does do it, but I don't think it does. So that's my summary basically. You've got new colours, more storage, more power, and for the same price. So it is a good upgrade, but I don't think it's worth upgrading. If your current iPad Mini is fine, but if you want a new mini iPad in this price range, I think it's just a no-brainer. Please go and have a look at it in the Apple shop and have a play around with it. Hope you enjoyed my review. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. I really appreciate that. I'll try to build the channel up, so that'd be great. Thank you very much.